All right, so today we're looking at this page from your notes. It says weather instruments. All right, so meteorologists use a bunch of different instruments to measure weather data. So we're going to look at a few of those weather instruments right now. First off, you have something called a barometer, and a barometer measures air pressure. Now there's different types of barometers. One type of barometer is this guy right here. It's called an aneroid barometer. A more classic barometer is what's called a Mercury Barometer. And basically what you have is, that's what that is right there. Basically what you have is a pool of mercury right there with a glass tube in it. And what happens is when there's a lot of pressure, a lot of air pressure, remember air pressure is the weight of the air on top of you, the air pressure pushes down on this pool of mercury, causing it to go up in the tube. So when there's a lot of pressure, the value in the tube goes up. If there's not very much pressure, so there's not much pushing down here, this goes up, which causes that to go down. All right, so that's a Mercury barometer. A couple other types of barometers. Here's a water barometer, and right here the water will go up and down here depending on what the air pressure is. And here's a little homemade tin can barometer. So what basically happens when there's a lot of air pressure, it pushes down on this and makes that go up. If there's not much pressure, this bulges up, which makes that go down. So those are all things that measure how much air pressure there is. Next up. We have Sling Cicrometer. So a Sling Cyclometer has two thermometers on it. One of them is a regular thermometer, has a dry bulb. The other one is a regular thermometer with a little sock on it that you get wet. So here's a little cheapy one I made with two thermometers. I put a piece of paper with my wet sock and I get that wet. Then what you do is you sling it around like that, and water evaporates off the wet bulb, cooling that thermometer, and then you can use the data from the two thermometers to look up both the dew point and the relative humidity. Right here is another example of one. Same idea, you got two thermometers, one with a little sock on it. You get the sock wet and you whip it around like that. So this is also a Sling Cyclometer. Something that's very closely related to the Sling Cyclometer is the Hygrometer. This is something more you hang on the wall. Again, regular thermometer, and then here's the wet bulb thermometer. You put water in there, and then as the water evaporates, it causes the temperature of that one to go down. And then using those two thermometers, you can figure out the dew point relative humidity, right? Next up, an anemometer. Anemometer measures how much wind speed there is. A classic anemometer looks something like this with the little cups on it. And as the wind blows, it spins, and then how fast that spins determines the wind speed. So like this one here is connected to a little gauge which measures how fast it's turning. This one here, the faster it goes, the higher that red piece goes up, and that can measure the wind speed by how fast it goes up there. All right, so that's the anemometer. So that's one type of one. Another type of one this little handheld guy right there, it's got like a little fan on the inside. Hold that in the wind, the little fan thing spins, and then it reads the wind speed on here. Or another thing that measures the wind speed is this guy right here. It's got little holes in it, and I hold it up to the wind, and what happens is as the wind blows in little holes, it causes the little ball to go up, and you can measure the wind speed by how high the ball goes up. Okay, next up, a weather vane. A weather vane is like this guy right here, and weather vanes are used to measure the wind direction. So let's say I was the wind, how this would work. So this little thing would point the direction the wind's coming from. And then you can use this little compass thing to figure out what direction the wind's coming from. All right, a thermometer. Now, I think at this point in your life you should know thermometer measures temperature. The classic thermometer looks something like that. But there's other ways to measure temperature as well. This right here is called a Galileo Thermometer, and each one of these little things on the inside have a different density, and based on the temperature, they'll rise or sink. So like right now, the 80, the 76, and the 72 are floating, but the 64 and the 66 are sinking. So that means the temperature in the room would be like 68 or so. So that's a Galileo thermometer. One last thing to show you, it's not on your note sheet, is this guy right here. This is a rain gauge. This measures how much precipitation there is. So you put this outside at the beginning of a rainstorm, and then it collects the rain, and you can see how many inches of rain and stuff there was. All right, so those are some of the common weather instruments that meteorologists use to measure weather data.